Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. The restaurant lighting felt too bright, like someone had turned the world up one notch too high. Every detail seemed sharper than it should have been. The clink of silverware against plates, the murmur of conversations from other tables, the way my husband's family sat around me in a careful semicircle, like hunters who had finally cornered their prey. I stared at the white tablecloth, willing my pulse to slow down, telling myself it was just nerves from the day, nothing more. I had graduated 3 hours earlier. Bachelor's degree in computer science, summa cum laude. For years of late nights, sacrifice, and sheer stubborn determination. I had worked full-time while studying, managed a household, paid bills, and still graduated at the top of my class. My husband had promised we would celebrate tonight. He had chosen this upscale restaurant in downtown Dallas, insisted I wear my best blue dress. I had believed this dinner meant something. I had believed he wanted to honor me. The waiter had just cleared our appetizer plates when my husband reached into his jacket pocket. My stomach tightened. For one foolish, hopeful moment, I thought maybe he had gotten me a gift after all. A bracelet, a necklace, even a handwritten card. Something to acknowledge what I had accomplished. Something that said he saw me. Instead, he pulled out a cream-colored, legal-sized envelope. My name was written across the front in his mother's handwriting, not his. "What's this?" I asked, even though something in my chest already knew. My voice sounded thin to my own ears, like it had traveled a long way just to get out of my throat. "Open it," his mother said from across the table. Her smile was thin and satisfied, the kind of smile that made my skin crawl. Next to her, my sister-in-law held up her phone, camera pointed directly at me. The little red recording light blinked. I realized they were filming. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. The paper inside was thick and expensive, like it had been chosen for important announcements. "Official petition for dissolution of marriage," the header read. My vision blurred slightly as I scanned the lines. Irreconcilable differences. Division of assets. The apartment we lived in, his name only. The car I drove to work every day, his name only. The savings account I had contributed to for 3 years, his name only. I would get nothing. According to those papers, I would walk away from our 4-year marriage with exactly what I had brought into it, which, after giving everything to build our life together, meant almost nothing. "We thought graduation was the perfect time," my husband said. His name was Jared, and his voice carried no emotion at all, like he was discussing an ordinary business transaction. "Clean break. You have your degree now. You can take care of yourself." He said it as if that had been a burden to him. "You have been living off our family's generosity long enough," his mother added. She lifted her wine glass and took a slow sip, completely at ease. "This way you can start fresh. No obligations." At the end of the table, my sister-in-law zoomed in with her phone, the camera unflinching. I could see my reflection in the knife resting by my plate. My face looked strange, distant, like I was watching this happen to someone else. They wanted a reaction. Tears, probably. Maybe anger, begging, an outburst. Something they could laugh about later, share with their friends, replay whenever they needed entertainment. The video would be proof of their power. Look what we did to her. Look how we broke her. I thought about the letter hidden in my purse. The one that had arrived 2 weeks earlier, before I had even walked across that graduation stage. The offer letter from Sterling Global Systems. It was for a senior associate position in their cybersecurity division. The salary was higher than anything I had ever dared to dream about, with benefits and growth opportunities laid out in careful, promising detail. The start date was in 1 week. I had told no one, not Jared, not his family. Some instinct had whispered to keep it quiet, to wait. Sitting there in that too-bright restaurant, I understood why. That little voice had not been paranoia. It had been protection. I picked up the pen Jared's mother had thoughtfully placed beside the documents, as if she had been sure I would sign. My hand was steady now. I signed my name on every line that required it, the scratch of pen on paper loud in the sudden hush around the table. Their conversation had stopped. Forks rested on plates. Even the clinking from other tables seemed far away. They had expected protest. Instead, I gave them efficiency. "Taylor, do you not want to read it more carefully?" Jared asked. For the first time all evening, uncertainty crept into his voice. This was not going according to whatever script they had planned in their heads. "I read enough," I said. My voice came out calm and flat, a steady line drawn across a chaotic page. I stacked the papers neatly, pushed them across the table back to him, and folded my hands in my lap. Is there anything else? His mother's smile faltered. The sister-in-law lowered her phone slightly, her brows pulling together. This was not the footage they had wanted. I stood, smoothing down the blue dress I had worn because Jared said it was his favorite. Thank you for dinner, I said, my gaze moving from face to face around the semicircle. And thank you for clarifying everything so completely. That is it, his sister snapped. You are just going to leave? She sounded disappointed. I looked at each of them in turn, and for the first time since I had married into their family, really saw them. The meanness in their eyes. The satisfaction they had expected to feed on. The emptiness inside them that required humiliating someone else to feel full. Yes, I said simply. That is it. No raised voice. No curse. No tear. I turned, walked past the stunned waiter hovering nearby, and headed for the exit without looking back. The night air outside felt cool and clean against my flushed cheeks. The city lights of Dallas bounced off glass windows and chrome bumpers as cars moved past, carrying strangers who had no idea my entire life had just been torn in half. My phone buzzed in my purse. A text from my best friend, Michelle. How is the celebration going? She wrote, unaware of the scene I had just left. I stared at the screen for a long second, then typed back, it is over. All of it. I will explain tomorrow. I called a car service instead of taking the train back to the apartment. Not that apartment, I reminded myself, not anymore. Legally, emotionally, practically, it already belonged to people who saw me as disposable. I gave the driver the address of the extended stay hotel I had quietly booked 3 days earlier when something in my gut told me to prepare for the worst. I had thought I was being dramatic. Turned out, I was being practical. The hotel room was small but clean, neutral carpet, generic art, a bed that was mine alone. I set my graduation cap on the desk, the gold tassel still hanging on the left where I had moved it earlier that afternoon. Then I pulled out the letter from Sterling Global Systems and read it again. Every word felt like a doorway. Every sentence felt like a promise. I did not cry. Tears would come later, maybe, when the shock had worn off. Right now, what I felt surprised me. I felt relief. The marriage had been dying longer than I wanted to admit. Especially in the last year, I had felt invisible in Jared's world. My accomplishments had been dismissed as cute hobbies. My dreams had been treated as inconveniences that disrupted the Harrington family's plans. I had stayed because I believed in commitment, in working through difficulties, in honoring vows even when things felt hard. But tonight, they had done me a favor. They had cut the chains themselves and handed me freedom wrapped in legal documents. I changed out of the blue dress and folded it carefully, sliding it into the back of the closet. I knew I would donate it soon. I just needed it out of sight for the night. I pulled on soft leggings and an oversized t-shirt and sat by the window, watching the city lights blur into streaks through the glass. 1 week until my new job started. 7 days to find an apartment, move my belongings, and begin again. The timeline felt impossible. It also felt necessary. My phone rang. Jared. I watched his name flash on the screen and let it go to voicemail. He called again. Decline. A text appeared. We need to talk about this properly, he wrote. As if eating dinner while handing me divorce papers had been improper only in tone, not in content. I blocked his number. Then I blocked his mother, his sister, every Harrington contact in my phone until their names disappeared and my contact list felt clean. Michelle called next. Her voice was gentle, filled with concern. What happened? She asked. I told her everything, how they had arranged the dinner, the envelope, the camera, the way they had spoken about me like I was a burden finally being shed. There was a long, heavy silence on the line. Then Michelle said quietly, Where are you? I told her. Are you okay? She asked. I surprised myself by answering. I think I am. Actually, I think I am better than okay. What do you mean? She asked. I lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling, the offer letter for Sterling spread open beside me like a second future. I got that job, I said. The one I applied for and did not want to jinx by talking about. They want me. Sterling Global Systems. Cybersecurity. I start next week. Michelle let out a breath. Taylor, that is amazing. I knew they would see your worth. What do you need? She asked. A place to store boxes for a few days, I said. And your help this weekend. You have it, she said without hesitation. Whatever you need. We are going to get you out of that apartment and into something that belongs to you. We ended the call after an hour of planning logistics, packing, viewings, budgeting. When I finally hung up, I felt less alone. I had one true friend. I had a degree I had earned with sweat and stubbornness. I had a job offer most people would envy. The Harrington family had nothing I needed anymore. Morning sunlight cut through the hotel curtains too early, but I woke feeling strangely energized. No more waking up in that apartment wondering if today would be the day things got better. No more pretending I did not notice the cold silences or the dismissive glances. I made coffee in the tiny hotel machine. It tasted bitter, but I drank it anyway, scrolling through my screen. 17 missed calls. 23 messages, all from numbers I had already blocked, now showing up as unknown. I deleted them without reading. Michelle pulled up to the hotel at 9 a.m. in her SUV, the back loaded with flattened boxes and rolls of tape. Determination was written all over her face. She hugged me hard in the doorway. "You ready?" she asked. "More than ready," I answered. We drove in silence to the apartment I had shared with Jared for 3 years. My key still worked. Inside, everything looked the same. The couch I had saved up to buy, the curtains I had hung, the little plant on the windowsill I had kept alive through 2 winters. But everything felt different. Jared was not there. His mother had texted among the messages I had deleted that he was staying with them, to give me space to collect my things. How generous. How calculated. They probably assumed I would stay for days, crying over memories, feeling guilty, reconsidering my rash decision to sign. I gave myself 3 hours. No more. "Let us start with your clothes," Michelle said briskly. "Then books. Then everything that is clearly yours." Her practicality steadied me. We moved through the apartment like a focused storm. We boxed up my clothes, my books, my personal items. I left behind anything we had purchased together. Kitchen gadgets, decorative pieces, gadgets he had gifted me but bought with the joint account. Let them have it all. I did not want any object that tied me emotionally to this space. In the bedroom closet, I found my old laptop, the one I had used before Jared insisted I use the newer one he bought. I packed it carefully, like a piece of myself I was reclaiming. On the top shelf, behind a row of winter sweaters, I discovered a box of photographs from my childhood. My grandmother smiling in a yellow sundress. My parents before they died in that car accident. Younger versions of me at 12, 15, 18, with big curly hair and bigger dreams. I held one photo longer than the others. Me at 18, high school graduation cap crooked, eyes bright with hope. "Taking those?" Michelle asked softly from the doorway. "Yes," I said. I need to remember who I was before all of this. 2 carloads later, my entire life fit into a dozen boxes and 3 suitcases stacked neatly in Michelle's garage. It should have felt sad. Instead, it felt freeing. After the last trip, I did one final walkthrough of the apartment. In the bathroom, my toothbrush still sat in the holder next to Jared's. I tossed it in the trash. In the living room, a framed photo of our wedding day hung on the wall. I took the frame down, carefully slipped the photo out, and left his smiling face on the console table. I slid my grandmother's frame into one of my boxes and set my key on the kitchen counter, centering it exactly between the salt shaker and a small bowl. I closed the door behind me without locking it. That was not my responsibility anymore. At the leasing office, I explained the situation to the manager and showed her the divorce papers I had kept copies of. She was sympathetic but professional, used to this kind of disruption. "Good luck to you," she said as I left. "You seem like you are handling this really well." "I am trying," I replied, and I meant it. Michelle and I spent the afternoon touring 3 studio apartments I had scheduled viewings for. The first was too dark, with windows facing an alley. The second had walls so thin we could hear a neighbor's television clearly. The third was small but perfect, a studio in a quiet neighborhood with a tiny kitchen, decent water pressure, and windows that faced east for morning light. It was walking distance to the train line that would take me downtown to Sterling. "I will take it," I told the landlord without hesitation. "When can I move in?" "First of the month," he said. 3 days from now." "Perfect." I filled out the application, listed references who had nothing to do with the Harringtons, and wrote a check for first month's rent plus the security deposit. The money came from a small account I had opened 6 months earlier, skimming a little from each paycheck. I had told myself it was emergency money. Apparently, my subconscious had known exactly what it was doing. We stored my boxes in Michelle's garage and went to a small diner nearby for a late lunch. She ordered burgers and fries for us both. It was not fancy, but the food tasted better than anything I had eaten in months. Maybe that was because no one was watching me, judging what I ordered, making comments about cost. "So," Michelle said carefully, wiping ketchup from her fingers. "How are you really doing?" "Not just I am fine. Actually." I thought about it, checking inside myself for the grief I expected to feel. For mourning over the marriage, over the lost years, over the family I thought I had joined. Instead, what I found was closer to resolve. "I am angry," I admitted. Not at the divorce itself. At how they did it. Making a show of it. Filming it. Trying to humiliate me at a moment they knew meant a lot to me. That was cruel. Michelle nodded slowly. "It was," she said. "And it showed you exactly who they are." "Exactly," I said. "I cannot be hurt by losing people who never really valued me. I am just done pretending." Michelle studied me for a moment. "That is very mature of you," she said. "I do not feel mature," I answered. "I feel like I wasted years trying to make something work that was broken from the start. But I am not wasting any more time looking back. I have 1 week to get my life together before I start a job that could change everything." Michelle smiled, the kind of smile that reached her eyes. "Look at you," she said. "Divorce papers on Friday, new career next Monday. That is a plot twist." "Next Monday," I corrected, though I smiled too. "I have a few days between the two." "But yes. What if they keep trying to contact you?" she asked. "They have nothing I want," I said simply. "No property, no children, no real ties except legal ones that are already dissolving. They can try to reach me if they want. I will not answer." "What if they show up?" Michelle asked. I put down my fries, wiped my hands, and met her eyes. "Then I will handle it calmly," I said. "The same way I did at dinner. I am not giving them the reaction they want. They do not get that from me anymore." Michelle nodded. "I will be there if you ever need backup," she said. "But honestly, the way you walked out tonight in that restaurant." She shook her head with a kind of awe. "They have no idea what they just unleashed." 3 days later, I moved into my tiny studio with the east-facing windows. The space smelled like fresh paint and new beginnings. I bought a second-hand futon, a small kitchen table, and a set of deep green sheets that made the room feel calmer somehow. I spent the evening building flat-pack furniture, my laptop playing soft music in the background. Every time my thoughts tried to drift back to the restaurant, I redirected them to the future. To Monday. To Sterling Global Systems. Monday morning, I dressed carefully in a navy suit I had bought on sale and a light blue blouse underneath. Professional, but not trying too hard. I pulled my natural hair into a sleek bun, added small hoop earrings, and stood in the bathroom, looking at myself. The woman in the mirror looked focused, determined, older than she had a week ago, but also somehow more herself. "You are enough," I told her softly. It felt awkward to say it out loud, but it also felt necessary. Sterling Global Systems occupied 15 floors of a glass and steel building in downtown Dallas. I arrived 30 minutes early, checked in with security, and rode the elevator to the 12th floor. My hands were steady. My breathing was calm. The reception area was modern and efficient, with comfortable chairs and framed photos of past company milestones. The woman at the front desk smiled when I gave my name. "You must be Taylor Monroe," she said. "Welcome. Ms. Rhodes wanted to meet you first thing." The fact that the chief executive officer wanted to meet me on my first day seemed surreal. I followed the receptionist down a hallway lined with photos of teams celebrating product launches and innovation awards. In every picture, people looked genuinely happy, not the forced smiles I had seen at other internships. At the end of the hall, an office door stood open. A woman in her late 40s rose from behind a sleek desk as we approached. "Taylor," she said, extending her hand. "I am so glad you are here. I am Danica Rhodes." Her handshake was warm and firm. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe, but there was an ease to her posture that made her seem approachable. Her eyes were sharp, though, the kind that missed nothing. "Thank you for the opportunity," I said. "I am ready to contribute however I can." "Good," Danica said. "I like people who know they are good at what they do. No need for false modesty here. Your thesis on data security protocols caught our attention. We need people who think creatively about problems." She gestured for me to sit and outlined my first few projects, initially supporting an existing team, then taking on more responsibility as I proved myself. She described Sterling's philosophy: no tolerance for office games, high expectations, support for people who delivered results. "One more thing," she said as I stood to leave. "You will hear people say you got this position because we needed diversity. Let them talk. You are here because you earned it. Remember that, especially on hard days." The words hit me harder than I expected. No one had ever been that direct about potential bias while also affirming my abilities. "I will remember," I said, my throat tightening unexpectedly. My team was small, 5 people including me. They welcomed me without the suspicion I had quietly feared. They showed me my workspace, walked me through ongoing projects, asked for my opinion within the first hour. By lunch, I had contributed 3 ideas that made my supervisor raise his eyebrows and scribble notes. "You are going to fit in well here," he said at the end of the day. "I can tell already." I worked straight through lunch, too engaged to feel hungry. The problems in front of me were complex, demanding the same intense focus I had loved in school, but with real-world stakes. Around 3, someone dropped off coffee on my desk with a sticky note that read, "Welcome to the chaos." By 5, someone reminded me I could go home. I stayed until 7 anyway. Walking out of the building that evening, I felt something I had not felt in years: purpose. Not obligation. Not survival. Real purpose. My phone stayed silent all day. No calls from the Harringtons, no unknown numbers. Whether they were tired of trying or simply regrouping, I did not know. I did not care. I rode the train back to my studio, stopped at the grocery store, bought pasta and vegetables, and cooked dinner in my tiny kitchen. It tasted perfect because I had made it for myself in a place that was mine. 6 months slipped by like pages turning in a book I could not put down. Autumn slid into winter, bringing a rare dusting of snow to the city. Through it all, I worked. I arrived early and stayed late. Not because anyone forced me, but because the work demanded my best and I wanted to give it. My first major project at Sterling involved restructuring our data security framework. I found vulnerabilities no one else had noticed. I proposed solutions that reduced risk significantly. Danica noticed. She always noticed. By December, I had been promoted to project lead. I now had my own small team under me, 3 brilliant analysts who respected my vision and challenged me to think bigger. "You are making quite an impression," my supervisor said during my end-of-year review. 2 promotions in 6 months is rare here. I shrugged. "I am just doing the work that needs to be done," I said. "You are doing more than that," he replied. "You are changing how we think about things. Keep going." In January, I moved from the studio to a 1-bedroom apartment with actual closet space, a small balcony, and a kitchen big enough to cook real meals. I furnished it slowly and deliberately. A comfortable chair for reading, a desk facing the window, a couple of thriving plants that brought life to the room. Michelle visited often with her husband and kids. We cooked together, laughed, and talked about everything from work to school schedules. She never pressured me to date again. She understood I was building something else first. "You seem content," she observed one Saturday while we chopped vegetables at my counter. "I am," I said honestly. "For the first time in years, I am building something that is entirely mine. No compromises, no one undermining me, no one rolling their eyes when I get excited about a problem I am solving. Just me and my work and the life I am shaping." "What about everything else?" she asked gently. "Do you want someone eventually?" I rinsed the knife and thought about it. "Eventually, yes," I said. "But right now, I want to prove something to myself. That I can stand on my own. That I do not need someone else to validate my worth." Michelle smiled. "You are already doing that," she said. "You know that, right?" "I am starting to believe it," I answered. Outside of work, I joined professional organizations, attended conferences, and connected with people who valued expertise over pedigree. My name started appearing in industry publications. Small mentions at first, then bylines on articles about innovative security approaches. I stayed off personal social media. No photos of my new apartment. No posts about my job. My professional presence was carefully curated, focused on work, not on my private life. Colleagues found it unusual in an era of oversharing, but I liked the separation. Let my work speak publicly. Let my personal joy remain quiet and protected. In March, Sterling won a major government contract. My security protocols were part of what sealed the deal. Danica announced the win at an all-hands meeting and specifically credited my work. People applauded. I nodded in acknowledgement, but felt uneasy about the spotlight. The work mattered more than the recognition. That night, alone on my couch, I let myself feel proud, just for a moment. Not arrogant, just quietly satisfied. From divorce papers to this. From humiliation to respect. It was a long distance in a short time. The first article about me appeared in an industry magazine a few weeks later, Rising Minds in Cybersecurity. The journalist had requested an interview after hearing me speak on a panel about emerging threats. I had hesitated, worried about sharing too much, but eventually agreed with conditions. I want to focus on the work, I told her. Not on personal drama. Of course, she said. Though context can help people connect to the journey. We do not need names or details. Just the shape of what you overcame. In my office, she asked about my education, my approach to innovation, my leadership style. Then gently, she asked about obstacles. I told her the truth without naming anyone. I spoke about finishing my degree while people closest to me doubted me, about starting over alone, about rebuilding a life and career with very little safety net. That must have been difficult, she said. It was necessary, I replied. Difficult things often are. But they made me stronger and more focused. They forced me to see what I was capable of. Do you ever wish you could show the people who doubted you what you have accomplished? She asked. I considered the question. I used to, I admitted. In the beginning, I imagined them seeing my success and regretting their choices. But now, my success is not about them. It is about me, about proving to myself that I could build something meaningful. Whether they know or not does not change what I have done. She nodded thoughtfully. That is going to resonate, she said quietly. The article went live 3 weeks later. My photo appeared on the front page of the digital edition. Me in my office, arms folded, looking more confident than I felt. Quotes about innovation, about merit-based growth, about resilience. My full name, my position, my story framed as an example of what was possible when talent met opportunity and determination. Anyone who searched my name, including the Harringtons, would now find that article. I wondered if they would read it. I wondered what they would think. Opportunities multiplied after that. Speaking invitations. Panels. Requests for guest lectures from business schools. Recruiters reached out with offers. I declined almost all of them. I was exactly where I needed to be. One invitation, however, stood out. A technology leadership conference in Chicago, one of the biggest in the industry. Danica encouraged me to submit a proposal to speak about Sterling's new autonomous security protocols. People need to hear how you are thinking, she said. Do it. Public speaking still made me nervous, but I submitted a proposal anyway. It was accepted with a prime slot on the second day. I spent weeks refining my slides, rehearsing until I could explain complex concepts clearly and confidently. The presentation room held 200 seats. By the time I stepped to the podium, every chair was filled and people were standing along the back wall. Good afternoon, I began. I am Taylor Monroe from Sterling Global Systems. Today, I want to talk about rethinking data security through predictive modeling and autonomous response. The next 30 minutes flowed better than I dared hope. I explained our approach, showed real-world applications, and walked through case studies demonstrating our results. The audience stayed engaged. They took notes. No one pulled out their phone halfway through. When I finished, the applause rolled across the room like a wave. During the question period, people asked thoughtful, technical questions. I answered each one directly, acknowledging limitations without undercutting our work. Afterward, attendees lined up to talk. Some wanted to collaborate. Others just wanted to say thank you. One woman in her 40s waited until the crowd thinned. Something about her expression felt familiar in a way I could not place. That was excellent, she said. Really innovative. I teach at the Kellerman School of Business at Lakeshore University here in Chicago. I am going to use your framework in my strategy courses, if you do not mind. Of course, I said. That is why we share. I have to ask, she said with a small frown. Are you from here originally? You remind me of someone. No, I said. I grew up in Ohio and moved to Texas for school and work. She smiled apologetically. Must be the way you carry yourself. You just have that familiar presence. I am Professor Amanda Fields, by the way. She handed me her card. If you are ever interested in guest lecturing, I would love to have you. I slid the card into my folder. I will keep that in mind, I said. Thank you. The rest of the conference was a blur of panels, networking, and late-night notes. On the final day, I attended a session on women in technology leadership. During the Q&A, A man in the audience asked, "Do you think companies ever promote people for diversity instead of merit? How do you respond when people question whether you really earned your position?" The air tightened. The moderator gave a careful diplomatic answer. The panelists responded with practiced grace. Something in me bristled. I raised my hand. The moderator nodded to me. "I would like to add something," I said. "I have heard that question before. The suggestion that if you are a woman or from a historically marginalized group, your success is suspect. Here is what I have learned. People who question your merit are usually people whose own merit has never been questioned. They benefited from systems that favored them, so they assume everyone else must be gaming some different system. Merit shows up in results. If you are delivering real value, you earned your position. Period." The room erupted in applause. The panelists nodded. The man who had asked the question sank into his seat, cheeks flushed. After the session, several women approached me to say thank you. "I needed to hear that today," one whispered, eyes bright. That night, the conference hosted a closing reception in the hotel ballroom. I considered skipping it, but Danica texted, "Go. Make connections. This matters for your future." So I went, wearing a deep green dress and the quiet confidence I had been cultivating. I was in a small circle, talking about collaboration, when I noticed a man across the room staring. Mid-30s, well-dressed. It took me a moment to place him. When I did, my stomach tightened. He used to attend gatherings at the Harrington house. Not close family, but close enough to know the gossip. He approached with a half-smile. "Taylor," he said. "Taylor Monroe?" "Yes," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Wow," he said. "I almost did not recognize you. You look different. In a good way. I heard your talk yesterday. That was you." "It was," I said. "That was incredible," he went on. "I had no idea you were doing work like this." "Last I heard," he trailed off, realizing what he had been about to say. "Last you heard what?" I asked evenly. He shifted. "Nothing. Just that things were different back then. That is all." He chuckled weakly. "Anyway, congratulations." "Seriously." He excused himself quickly. The damage, however, was done. Someone from the old circles now knew exactly where I was and what I had become. Word would travel. Part of me wanted to feel anxious. But as I stood there under the chandelier, surrounded by peers who respected my work, all I felt was calm. Let the Harringtons hear. Let them see what I had built. I did not need their awareness, but if they gained it, it would not change anything about my trajectory. I flew back to Dallas the next morning, returned to my apartment, my job, my routines. The life I had built without them. A few months later, an email arrived with the subject line, "Documentary Opportunity." At first, I almost deleted it, assuming it was spam. Then I saw the sender, a production company whose documentaries I recognized from streaming platforms. Thoughtful pieces. Human stories told with nuance. "We are developing a series about women rebuilding their lives and careers after major setbacks." The message read, "Your name came up repeatedly in our research. We would love to discuss featuring your story." I forwarded the email to Michelle with a single line. "I do not know how I feel about this." She called within minutes. "This is huge," she said. "What are you worried about?" "Everything," I answered honestly. "My privacy. Dredging up old pain. Giving the Harringtons more ammunition." Michelle was quiet for a moment. "Taylor," she said finally, "they already know you are successful. That guy at the conference probably made sure of it. This is not about them anymore. This is about you deciding how your story is told, and who might need to hear it. What if I do not want it told at all?" I asked. "Then you say no," she said. "But before you do, think about this. How many women out there are stuck in something like what you went through? How many need to see proof that life can be good on the other side? You talk about merit and opportunity at work. This is another kind of opportunity to help someone else believe in themselves." Her words stayed with me long after we hung up. I agreed to a preliminary call with the producers. Their approach reassured me. "We are not interested in exploiting pain," the lead producer said. "We want to highlight resilience. You would have control over what is shared. No names, no identifying details about people who hurt you. We want to show your journey, not attack anyone." I agreed to a filmed interview with no commitment beyond that. They came to Sterling with a small crew, filming me at work, leading meetings, reviewing code, collaborating with my team. Then we sat in a conference room with big windows and soft light. "Tell me about the moment everything changed," the interviewer said. I thought of the envelope, the restaurant, the pen. It was not the moment they handed me divorce papers, I said. It was the moment I signed them. That was when I realized I had a choice. I could fight for something broken or build something new. Fighting would have kept me stuck. Signing meant moving forward. So I signed. I walked out. And I started over. That must have been terrifying, she said. It was, I answered. But it was also freeing. I had spent so long trying to make myself smaller to fit into someone else's life. When they rejected that version of me, I had to ask myself who I actually was and what I actually wanted. Turns out I wanted this: meaningful work, independence, self-sufficiency, not their approval. Do you think about them? She asked. The people who hurt you. Rarely now, I said. At first I thought about them constantly. But when you are genuinely building something, you do not have much energy left for resentment. What would you say to someone going through something similar? She asked. I looked directly into the camera. Your value does not depend on anyone else recognizing it, I said. People who dismiss you are showing you who they are. Believe them. Then build anyway. Build something so solid and so real that their opinion becomes irrelevant. Not because you proved them wrong, but because you proved yourself right. The interview lasted 2 hours. When it ended, I felt oddly lighter. 2 weeks later, the producers told me they wanted to include my story in the series. I said yes. Filming took 3 months. They interviewed Michelle, who talked about helping me move, about answering late-night calls when I was exhausted but determined. They interviewed Danica, who spoke about recognizing potential and choosing to invest in it. They filmed at my apartment, me cooking simple dinners, working at my desk, watering plants. Nothing dramatic. Just ordinary scenes of a stable, peaceful life. The documentary premiered on a Friday evening, 6 45-minute episodes. Mine was episode 3, Building After Breakdown. Michelle came over with takeout. We curled up on my couch and pressed play. Watching myself on screen felt surreal. I looked confident and composed in a way I still did not always feel. The editing was fair. They did not sensationalize the divorce. They framed it as a starting point, not the main event. The emphasis stayed on the rebuilding, the growth, the choices I had made. Over the next few days, messages trickled in from strangers. People found my work email through the company's site and sent short notes. I am filing for divorce and was terrified, one wrote. Seeing your story made me hopeful. Another said, I have been thinking about going back to school. Your journey pushed me to apply. Those messages made the vulnerability of sharing worth it. Of course, the Harringtons saw it too. I found out through a mutual acquaintance who emailed. They watched the documentary. They're furious. They say you misrepresented things. I did not respond. I did not defend myself. The documentary did not mention names or identifying details. It told my truth, my experience. Whether they liked that truth or not was not my problem. 3 weeks later, a letter arrived at Sterling addressed to me from a law firm representing the Harringtons. A cease and desist, accusing me of defamation and demanding I stop making false and damaging statements about them. I forwarded it to Sterling's legal department. Our general counsel called me into her office. We will handle this, she said. You did nothing wrong. The documentary never identified them, and truth is a defense anyway. They are trying to scare you into silence. Sterling's attorneys responded swiftly and firmly, outlining the lack of legal basis and gently noting that any attempt to push the matter further would only bring more attention to the very story they wanted buried. The Harringtons backed down. Their attempt to control my voice failed. A month later, another letter arrived, this time from the National Technology Leadership Foundation. I had been nominated for their Emerging Innovator Award, recognizing professionals under 30 who had made significant contributions to the field. The ceremony would be in New York, broadcast live, attended by leaders from across the country. I brought the letter to Danica, unsure how to feel. You have to accept, she said, smiling. This is huge, Taylor. People work entire careers hoping for this. It feels premature, I said. I have only been in the field a few years. Exactly, she replied. That is what makes it impressive. Stop downplaying what you have accomplished. You have earned this. Take the win. So I accepted. The weeks leading up to the ceremony were a swirl of work, preparation, and creeping anxiety. The idea of standing on a stage in front of hundreds of people, with cameras broadcasting my face nationwide, made my stomach knot. But Michelle insisted on coming with me. You need someone there who knows the whole story, she said. I am not missing this. The ceremony was held in a historic theater in Manhattan. Outside, photographers snapped photos as people stepped out of black cars. Inside, chandeliers cast warm light over rows of seats and velvet curtains. I wore a maroon dress that skimmed the floor and my grandmother's small gold earrings. As we found our seats, I kept thinking about the woman who had signed divorce papers at a restaurant table 2 years earlier. She would not have believed she would stand here one day. My award was third to last. When the presenter finally said, "Emerging Innovator, Taylor Monroe," my heart slammed against my ribs. In just 18 months at Sterling Global Systems, she has reshaped how we think about autonomous security systems, he said. Her work in predictive modeling is already being adopted by organizations nationwide. I walked to the stage, accepted the Crystal Award, and stood at the microphone. The audience blurred for a moment. Then my voice found itself. "Thank you," I began. "This recognition means the world to me because it represents something I had to learn the hard way, that your worth is not determined by who believes in you. 2 years ago, people I trusted told me I was not enough, not accomplished enough, not worthy enough. I could have believed them. Instead, I decided to prove something different. Not to them, to myself. This award is not just about security systems. It is about what happens when you refuse to accept someone else's limitations on your life." I glanced at the front row where Danica sat, hands clasped, eyes bright. "I want to thank leaders who create spaces where merit matters more than pedigree," I continued. "Where results speak louder than connections. That is the kind of world I want to help build. One where talent is recognized wherever it appears, and where people are free to grow beyond the boxes others put them in." When I finished, the applause rose and rose. People stood. I stepped away from the microphone, breathing hard but steady. Backstage, journalists waited with microphones. I gave a few brief interviews, keeping the focus on the work, the team, the field. Later, at the reception, strangers approached to say how much my speech meant to them. "My daughter needed to hear that," one executive told me. "I am going to show her the recording." At one point, I stepped outside for air. The New York night was cool, the sky a deep navy above the canyon of buildings. My phone buzzed in my hand. A text from an unknown number had slipped past my blocked list. "Saw your award. Congratulations. You have done well. We were wrong about you." It was from Jared's mother. No apology. No acknowledgement of harm. Just a reluctant admission that their assessment of me had been flawed. I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. She did not deserve my words. The award, the speech, the life I was living, those were my answers. Months passed. The documentary continued to be discovered by new viewers. The article with my speech excerpts circled online. I kept working. I led larger teams, took on bigger projects. Then in June, Hartwell Industries called. They wanted me to become their Chief Innovation Officer. Fortune 500 company. Global footprint. Resources that made Sterling look small. The salary and equity package could set me up for life. I sat with the offer for a week, reading it over and over at my kitchen table. Finally, I scheduled a meeting with Danica. I laid the letter in front of her. "Hartwell wants me," I said. "I need your advice." She read it carefully, then looked up with a small, proud smile. "You should take it," she said. I blinked. "Just like that? No counteroffer?" She shook her head. "I am not going to hold you back out of ego. When I hired you, this is exactly what I hoped would happen, that you would grow beyond what we could offer. You are ready for this. Go. Build something even bigger." I gave Sterling a long notice period, documenting my work in detail and training my replacement so nothing fell through the cracks. The announcement of my new position hit the industry news sites within a day. Hartwell Industries names Taylor Monroe Chief Innovation Officer, the headlines read. Articles dissected my approach to security and leadership, speculating about the direction Hartwell would take under my guidance. I was no longer just a rising name. I was a leader-shaping strategy. I bought a house, a real house, not an apartment, for the first time in my life. 3 bedrooms on a quiet tree-lined street in a Dallas suburb. A small yard where I planted herbs and flowers. A home office with a window that overlooked the neighborhood. Michelle's husband assembled furniture while the kids ran from room to room, claiming which bed they would sleep in when we have sleepovers. Michelle stood beside me in the living room, hands on her hips. "Look at you," she said. "Homeowner. Executive. Handling all of it. Do you ever think about them? she asked that evening as we sat on my back porch, watching the sun sink behind the trees. About what they are doing now. I sipped my drink, really checking my thoughts. No, I said at last. I genuinely do not. Whatever they are dealing with, it has nothing to do with me. That is real growth, she said quietly. Later that night, after everyone left, I walked through the quiet house alone. Boxes still waited to be unpacked, but the space already felt like mine in a way no shared apartment ever had. An email arrived from a law firm representing the Harrington family business a few days after I moved in. They were closing operations and filing bankruptcy. Attached was a politely worded request for me to consider purchasing certain assets at a reduced price, an attempt to help preserve something of the family legacy. I deleted it without replying. An hour later, another email arrived, this one from Jared himself. It was long, paragraph after paragraph of half-explained regrets and carefully framed excuses. He wrote about how difficult things had become, about losing his position when the company downsized, about realizing, too late, how much he had taken my dedication for granted. He wrote that he had always known I was special, but had not appreciated it properly. He wrote about family, about shared history, about hoping I could find it in my heart to help in this crisis. Even a recommendation, an introduction, anything. I read the email once, start to finish. Then I moved it to a folder and closed it. I considered responding. Not to say yes, but to explain why I would not. To outline, point by point, the ways they had chosen cruelty and control. The reasons their current situation was theirs alone to navigate. But then I pictured them reading my words and twisting them into something else. I pictured the energy it would take. I decided they had taken enough already. So I gave them what I had given them for 2 years, silence. Complete, unwavering silence. That weekend, Michelle came over with a cold bottle of champagne. Housewarming, new job, whole new chapter, she announced, waving it in the air. We sat on my back porch again, this time surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and the faint smell of fresh paint drifting from inside. She poured 2 glasses and raised hers. To Taylor, she said, who built something beautiful from nothing, who refused to stay small, who knows her worth even when other people do not. I lifted my glass. To new beginnings, I replied, and to friends who stand by you. Are you happy? She asked after we drank, her voice soft but serious. I thought about it longer than she probably expected. I checked inside myself the same way she had asked me to at that diner after the divorce. Was I happy? Not just successful. Not just busy. Truly happy. Yes, I said finally. I really am. Not because I proved anyone wrong. Not because they're struggling now. Just because this life feels like mine. It fits who I actually am. No pretending, no shrinking. That is happiness for me. Monday morning, I drove to Hartwell's headquarters for my first day as Chief Innovation Officer. The office was larger than any space I had ever had, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. My name was on the door. A team of 30 brilliant people would be looking to me for direction. The responsibility might have terrified the woman who once sat in a restaurant clutching divorce papers. Standing there now, I felt ready. Not because I believed I would never stumble, but because I knew beyond any doubt that I could rebuild if I did. That night, I came home to my house, cooked a simple meal, and ate at the table I had chosen, under the light fixture I had picked out. I washed dishes in the sink I had paid for. Small, ordinary motions that felt profound because they were entirely mine. I thought of that younger version of myself, sitting in a too-bright restaurant, convinced her life was over. If I could have spoken to her across time, I would have told her this. You have no idea yet how strong you are. You have no idea how far you will go once you stop trying to earn love from people who do not know how to give it. I went to bed that night in my own room, in my own house, in my own life. No one could take it from me. No one could diminish it. No one else could claim credit for it. It was mine, truly, completely, unchangeably mine. Not because everything had gone smoothly, because it had not, but because every brick had been laid by my own hand, every choice made by my own mind, every step taken by my own determination. I had not just survived what the Harringtons did to me. I had turned it into fuel and built an entire future from it. And that, I realized, lying in the quiet dark, was victory, pure, complete, and entirely on my terms. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.